Hello friends, welcome back to this video. We are continuing with the discussion of the psychology of psychological problems. In this video, we are going to discuss the Bhagavad Gita approach to psychological difficulties, the cause of suffering, and how this is dealt with in the Bhagavad Gita is the subject of this video. The Bhagavad Gita is a discourse between Arjuna and Krishna in the battlefield of Kurukshetra. Here we find Arjuna extremely distressed and extremely depressed that he refuses to fight in the war. And in this context, Krishna discusses with him the various aspects of the right and wrong and what are the causes of psychological distress, how depression can be overcome. And at the end of it, we find Arjuna coming back to the battle and he prepares himself to engage in the war. Now the cause of Arjuna's distress or depression is mistaken identity. What do I mean by mistaken identity? Identification with anything can be divisive and can cause psychological distress. What does it mean? You may identify yourself with many things in life. For example, you may identify with your birth, that you belong to a certain family of high repute. That may be your identification at one level. You may identify yourself in your role as a warrior, as some other thing like a teacher. Again, if you identify with that can also cause distress or depression. And identification with the body, with the mind, can also be divisive. In other words, identification at any form can be divisive, can be limited, and what is limited and what is very limited in scope can be divisive and can cause psychological difficulties or problems. Here what happens to Arjuna? Arjuna refuses to fight because his identification with the family, meaning that he refuses to fight with his own relatives, his own friends, was very distressing to him. So this identification is the cause of number one difficulty in Arjuna. And let us look at it in another way. Identification with mind is at the root of problems according to Indian spirituality. What do I mean by mind? What is mind according to Indian spirituality? Mind is a collection of memories. Mind is the knowledge that we possess, which is also a collection of memories. And the one limiting factor about it is that it is limited, that it is finite. Ignorance can be infinite, whereas knowledge and memory is limited. What is limited will be essentially divisive, and what is divisive will essentially create this and that. And when there is a division, there is naturally conflict. Conflict is the cause of psychological suffering. Indian spirituality teaches us to shed all the limited identifications and develop a cosmic identity. We come across dictums like Aham Brahmasmi, Tattvamasi. In all that, what is stressed is the fact that we are not limited to the memory, we are not limited to even the physical corporal body, but we are one with the cosmos, one with the universe as a whole. This cosmic identity makes all other identities caused by the mind, caused by the physical existence, very limited and very, very unimportant and insignificant in comparison. Another Sanskrit word says, Dudiyad Vaibhayam Bhavanti, meaning when there is division, there is fear, and fear is at the root of all psychological suffering. And overcoming the fear is the way to realizing the totality, to realizing the cosmic proportion of our self. In the battlefield, we see Arjuna having a conflict because there is a role conflict. He speaks like a philosopher. He asks questions to Krishna. He questions the very righteousness of waging a war and killing people. In fact, the war situation is not at all about whether it is right to kill or not to kill. That is not the question at all. The question is one of philosophical dimension, one of realizing the true self, one's true self of a cosmic dimension. Here we find Arjuna questioning the appropriateness of the war and speaks like a philosopher, argues like a philosopher, and his most of the arguments make sense to us, which are questions we also very often ask about the significance or the appropriateness of the war in Mahabharata. It is after all killing people. But Mahabharata or the Gita is not at all about the war or the rightness or the wrongness of war. It is about realizing the soul. It is about realizing who you are. Arjuna's role and responsibility is to fight. There is no question about it. He is trained to become a warrior. He has spent all his life training himself in the warfare. And now at the war situation, he refuses to fight. This is the problem. This is a problem of misidentification. He confuses his role. He speaks like a person of great knowledge. And Gita says, Shreyan Sodharmo Vigunaha Paradharma Swanishtida Sodharmi Nidhanam Shreya Paradharmo Bhayavaha. Here the responsibility of Arjuna is to fight. He has always been trained to do that. He is not supposed to ask these questions at a situation where it demands of him to fight. This is the cause of his problem. He confuses his role because he identifies his self with the role. His self is not that of a warrior. His self is not even that of Arjuna, the Pandava. The self of any individual has a greater dimension. Arjuna fails to see that, and that is why there is a mental conflict, and that is why he refuses to fight. Why does it all happen? Or how does it all happen? This is the fundamental teaching of Bhagavad Gita. This is the psychology of Bhagavad Gita. There is a sloka which says, Dhyayado Vishayan Pumsaha Sangasteshu Ubajayade Sanga Jayade Kama Kamal Krodam Abhijayade Krodal Bhavati Sammohat Sammohat Smridibramshaha Smridibramsal Buddhinasha Buddhinashal Pranashvyadi. This sloka, this verse clearly expounds the philosophy, expounds the psychology of suffering. Let us look into it. What does it say? Dhyayade Vishayan Pumsaha, meaning when you think over one subject, the same thought, it develops a habit. The habit causes you to develop attachment to certain ideas, certain emotional emotionally favored things, that leads to craving, karma. It leads to craving, and craving leads to needs. It develops into some needs. It can be emotional needs, it can be physical needs, and when these needs are unmet, it leads you to develop anger. You become angry when it is unmet. You become psychologically distressed. You suffer because you don't get it. Because of the attachment, when it is refused, when you don't get it, you feel unhappy, you feel distressed, you feel put down. This is the cause of suffering. And when these things happen, your intellect doesn't work. You are totally confused about everything. And when your intellect doesn't work properly, when your knowledge does not come to your help in a crisis situation, that is as well as getting killed. And there is no escape from that. That puts a person in a very precarious situation, and he cannot take decisions wisely, and whatever he does is in confusion, and that may very well lead to disaster. And this is what we find in the battle, and this is what is happening to Arjuna, and Krishna comes to help and teach him the righteousness or the rightness and wrongness, and what is the ideal and what has to happen in the situation. And this is the teaching of Bhagavad Gita. And now in the context of Bhagavad Gita, we understand that there are two causes for psychological distress. They are a wrong identification, and the second is attachment. These are the two causes of all psychological problems. And when a person is able to understand it, when a person develops awareness about what is happening in such situations, we may find a way out. And this is the psychology of Bhagavad Gita. And this is what Bhagavad Gita teaches us, to be detached and to identify with the cosmic, with the larger truths, not with the limited identifications of self, memory, manas, or the family, or anything for that matter. And in the end, Arjuna understands his responsibility. Arjuna realizes his true self. The Gita says, Nadumam chakyasya drashto maneneva swachachuja divyam dadamide chakshu pashyameva yogam aishwaram. This sloga explains that we are given a divine eye. It is not with the intellect that you understand these things. It is with the intuition. It is with the identification with the total, with the larger, with Aham Brahmasmi dimension, that we understand this is all puny and petty in comparison with the cosmic scale. And when Arjuna realizes this truth, he is able to get over his limited identity. He is able to fight in the war, and he is able to discharge his responsibilities as a warrior. And this is the teaching of Bhagavad Gita, that the root cause of all suffering is misidentification on the one hand and attachment on the other hand. These are the cause of psychological difficulties. When a person is able to get over this by developing awareness about the truth, the true self, we may be able to overcome these limitations. I hope that you got the concepts discussed in this video clear to you. We can always have further discussions on the subject. You can get in touch with me in the comment box, or you can contact me directly for further discussion on this subject. Thank you. Till we meet again, goodbye.